All right, welcome to another 902 gaming video, and today I'm going to be going over the spoilers from the Alchemy set that's coming out for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. As I predicted, I guess, and maybe everybody already knew before I did, I'm not sure, but that there was going to be an Alchemy set basically for every new set that comes out. It allows them to print a set, have a set come out, and then within about 3 weeks to probably about a month after. I think it's about a month. I think they're releasing in about 3 days time. I don't know how many cards are in the set. If it's the same as the last one, I think there was 56 cards or 57 cards, I think, for the Crimson Vow one. There may only be small ones, which would be okay. And hopefully they kind of get away from the random elements that they had in the first one, or in the original one. I really dislike the random elements, especially the draft a random card, a random card out of 3 that you would get out of 15. Anyways, I did a video on that already, and I don't want to go over it again. But I wanted to go over the cards that were spoiled. From what I saw yesterday, there wasn't any random. But there's a few cards there's 4 cards spoiled, I guess, either after the live stream from yesterday from Magic, and I just wanted to go over those as well as the other ones that were spoiled as well. So the ones that are just current, the ones that we know about right now, at least according to Mythic Spoiler. Not 100% sure if these are official or not. I know these 6 are, like Dragonfly Pilot and Forceful Cultivator, Better Offer, the 2 Camis, and Moth Cavalry are legit because they were spoiled from the stream yesterday during the champs. The Champion series, whatever it's called now, I don't know. It's kind of like a PTQ, but not really. Anyways, so first up we have Foundry Beetle. So first strike, equipped creature has first strike. And I haven't really looked at these before. I'm just looking at them now. I saw these 6 here, but the other ones I haven't seen yet. At the beginning of your upkeep, a random artifact card in your hand perpetually gains. This costs 1 less to cast. Okay. Again, random is bad. We're random game on top of random elements now. Not very good. I don't like it. It's just generally random cards won't get played anyway, for the most part. I think Key to the Archive is the exception because the random cards that you can get out of it are so powerful. I mean, there's a few kind of duds, but still, I think most of them are generally good. And I don't think I've ever played Key to the Archive where I haven't got one very good effect out of it, like one very good card out of it, or just having to be busted card in Alchemy. So this one eventually, so it's a 2 mana 2/2, which is good. First strike, and you can equip it. You can reconfigure it for 1. This seems like a card that was designed for Neon Dynasty, and then they said, hey, you know what? We can actually pull this card out and put it into Alchemy and add a random element to it. Because we have the haste one, which is a 1 mana 1/1 with a reconfigure of 1 red, and it's haste, and then it gives the equipped creature haste. So this one, it looks like they took part of it and then just added a random element to it. It's fine. Wouldn't really matter if it was in the base set anyways. The problem is it's no longer in standard, and a card like this would be pretty sweet in standard. But anyways, I'll try not to focus on the format too much. I already did a video, like I said, about what I feel about Alchemy, and I think if it got away from the random stuff, doesn't look like it's doing it right now, I think Alchemy would be a good format, just because I do like the balancing aspect of it. I don't like over-the-top balancing. I don't think Goldspan Dragon should have been balanced. There's no way. I don't think. It was powerful, but powerful effects are okay. Making a treasure does ramp you. Killing it, knowing when to kill it is more important, and maybe that's part of the problem. But anyway, so that's that one. I mean, if you play this on turn 2, you have, 5 or 6 cards in hand, and if say they're all artifacts ranging from, you basically can cast, this could allow you to cast a 4 mana artifact the next turn for 3 mana, and on and so on, right? So it's not a huge deal, although I suppose it's a card every single turn. So if that was the case, you would be able to play your hand out much quicker. So I don't know this. I don't know. Anyways, it doesn't, and it perpetually gains it. So it doesn't really matter. So you could basically have your next turn, one card would get 1 mana less. So say you had a 6 mana artifact that would go down to 5, then it would go down to 4, then it could go down to 3. If it was the only artifact card in your hand, so you could essentially play like a 6-7 mana artifact. Not that there's really that much in Alchemy / Standard, but if there was, you'd be able to play it a lot sooner over the course of a couple of turns, basically for free at some point. So yeah, I don't like this that much. It's probably not going to be played like that because I don't think there's enough cards that fit this sort of theme, but maybe in Alchemy, maybe even in Historic, this potentially could be way worse than Historic. But I don't really play Historic, so I won't comment too much on that. Next up, we have Dragonfly Pilot, which is a 1/1 for 1 mana. That's, you know, always keep an eye out 1 mana cards. This one conjures. I'm fine with the conjures. If it was like a random vehicle, I would be way more pissed off about it. Like, I think this card is fine. I think the issue that I have with the random elements is the unknown quantity of it. So if this was like a random vehicle, you wouldn't know what vehicle, your opponent wouldn't really know what vehicle to sort of play around. It would benefit you because it's more hidden information. And I think potentially maybe that's why Duress was played more heavily at the MTG Champs this weekend, because I think more people were expecting the archive to be played a lot more than it was. I think it was still played pretty heavily, but it didn't appear in any of the top decks, I don't think. So this one, you get basically a 3/2 flyer that has a crew of 1, and then this thing also operates as a pilot, so it can crew vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. So it can crew anything up to 3 power, something like the Reckoner Bankbuster. This could mean the Dragonfly suit's really not that great of a card. It's good in like sealed and stuff, and maybe good in draft. I mean, I think it's okay in those formats, but I don't know about Alchemy itself. And the other one, I think, which is the 1 mana 2/1, is actually better than this one. Although this one kind of draws you a card, sort of. Just kind of a bad one. But that's still nothing to scoff at. I mean, a card is a card, so. All right, then we have Forceful Cultivator. This spell costs 2 less if there are no land cards in your hand. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card and put that land on the battlefield tapped. Okay. It's a mythic. It's probably better than I think. It does allow you to keep a slightly worse hand, but I don't know if playing cards that rely on you having a bad hand really make the cut. Generally they don't, but who knows? Like, as a 2 mana 2/3, that's pretty good too. But nothing to, like, you know, write home about or whatever. You can also play it as a 4 mana card too, which allows you to ramp as well. It's not terrible, and it can be good in certain situations where you do have that, you know, you have 2 lands and then you want your 3rd one and you don't draw one. I think it's fine. I don't know why it's mythic. Maybe there's something that I'm missing about it. You know, maybe like blinking it, I suppose. But yeah, other than that, if you have 3 lands in your hand and this card, it's 4 mana. Right? So you can't cast it on turn 2. Maybe you can cast it on turn 3 and then maybe something else. Maybe that's where it might shine. But maybe if it was a 3/2, I'd be a little bit more pumped about it. Then we have Better Offer. So for X and blue, put a random creature with a mana cost value X or less from target opponent's library onto the battlefield under your control. It perpetually has base power and toughness XX and perpetually gains board 1. It is a sorcery, which is great. So basically your opponent can tap out for 5 mana, so X equals 4. So you search your opponent's, so you pull a random creature with mana cost 4 or less. Now, if your opponent doesn't have any creatures that are 4 or less, then you're not getting anything with this. So yeah, if you do it for 4, so anything from 4 to 1. So as long as there's creatures in their deck, you will get 1, and then if the 4 mana creature is like this, it's a 2/3, it actually becomes a 4/4 and has ward 1. So like if you actually cast Better Offer for 4 mana or for 5 mana, X equals 4, and you could get this out of your opponent's deck, it becomes a 4/4 with Ward 1. So that's pretty good. Again, it is a random card, but at least your opponent knows what the random card is. Again, it's a random element, but it's also a known quantity when the spell actually resolves. It's not an unknown. It doesn't summon a random card to your hand, for example, right? It does enter the battlefield, so your opponent does know. Then we have Kami of Bamboo Grows. I think this was one of the better cards that I saw yesterday. Enters the battlefield. You can put a land from your hand into the battlefield tapped, which is pretty good. I think we had something like that before. As a 1-mana creature, it allows you to basically ramp second land out on turn 1, which is pretty good. And it's a land, not a basic land. Then if you already hit your land drops and you draw this, say, like on turn 3, you can actually channel it and then conjure 2 force cards into your hand. So again, your opponent would know, when you channel this, that you have 2 forests in your hand, not 2 unknown lands, which, if it was like, conjure 2 random lands in the format, then, it would be really busted. But then your opponent wouldn't also know what 2 lands you got. You could have got nothing, right? So the conjuring 2 force is pretty good. So I like both sides of this. It's a little bit of a ramp spell, and it's also kind of a instant speed divination that draws you that always draws you 2 lands. So it's a pretty good card. This is where I like Alchemy. I like it to be in this space rather than the random space. Then we have Kami of Mourning. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target creature you control or creature card in your graveyard perpetually gains. Whenever a creature you control with greater mana value than this card dies, return this card from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So if this was 3 mana, so if you put this out and somebody wrathed, this would basically come back from your graveyard. So if you targeted this when it came into play, and then you played a 4 mana spell next turn, and then somebody wrathed the board, then what would end up happening is, because you lost the creature with a converted mana cost of 4, this comes back into play and gains it again. Or you can target the 4 mana one, though that way if you play a 5 mana spell, this actually seems pretty good. It's something that I have to play with to see how it works exactly, but it seems pretty good. Then we have Moth Rider Cavalry. This spell costs 2 less if you have no other creature cards in hand. That's interesting. Or if the only other creature cards in your hand are named Moth Rider Cavalry. So if you had 4 of these in hand, you play this, you wouldn't play it on turn 2 necessarily, because you would likely have more than just the 4 of these cards in your hand. But at some point, if you only had a couple of them in hand, then they would be 2 mana. So basically for 4 mana, you would play this, and both of them would be 3/3s because it's other creatures. That's not bad. It also is 2 mana if you have no other creatures in hand, so you can play this in like a control deck, I guess. As a 2 mana 2/2 flyer that pumps anything else, maybe tokens. I could see that being played in some type of token deck. So that's pretty good. As a 4 mana crusade type effect, it's still fine too, I think. I'm not sure why these are mythic, but I guess reducing the cost, they were probably worried about it being too busted. Again, I'm only on the surface. I don't really know what other combinations they be. I don't play Alchemy that much. So there could be like some really busted ways to break the card, I guess. These ones are spoiled today. Yes, the 14th. I like how it says here, Alchemy Neon Kamigawa. We have a 3 mana Bellows Breath Ogre. So it's a 3 mana 3/3. Starting intensity 1. What's that? Whenever Bellows Breath Ogre attacks, it deals damage equal to its intensity to any target. Then perpetually increases its intensity by 1. Okay. So it starts off as a 3 mana 3/3, and then when it attacks, it deals 1 damage to any target. Then it goes up to 2. Then it deals 2 damage. Okay. So much for not making things overly complicated with the with these sets, but hey. It seems fine. I mean, it's probably one of those cards that's more powerful once you actually start playing with it. If it had haste, it'd be a lot better, obviously. But I mean, I guess I could see it maybe not eating a removal. It's also an artifact, so maybe it kind of goes along with this. This is being pushed very heavily in, I think, this alchemy. I think you're going to see an artifact deck come out, and then it's probably going to get nerfed because they're going to overdo the artifact theme. Then we have a 2-mana 2/2 spirit. Whenever it enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield, each permanent card in your hand perpetually becomes an artifact. Oh, well, see, like you get this kind of thing. Every card in your hand perpetually becomes an artifact. In addition to its other types, each permanent card in your hand perpetually becomes an enchantment in addition to its other types. So when it enters play, they all become artifacts. When it leaves play, they all become enchantments. So basically, every card in your hand would be artifact and enchantments. It's fine, I guess. It's again, I'd rather this sort of thing. Yeah, and this seems like another one of those cards where, you know, if maybe they had it worded where when it was originally in Kamigawa, Neon Dynasty, where when it entered play, target permanent becomes an artifact, and then leaves play, you get to pick one. Then you say, well, let's just make it perpetually and put it into alchemy, right? So then we have Fragment Reality. 1-mana instant, exile target non-token artifact. Exile target non-token artifact, creature, or enchantment. So it's a non-token artifact, non-token creature, non-token enchantment. This controller puts a random creature card with a lesser mana value from their library. Well, this is not a card that's likely going to be played. I don't think. You're basically trading one card for another. You're basically killing one creature for another creature. I don't see this being played. There was one that was in Neon Dynasty, and then there was one prior to that, which was in, I think it was in Strixhaven, where you can destroy like any permanent, and then they put another permanent from their hand into play. You just would never play it, right? It just seems along the lines there. I mean, it is 1 mana. It is an instant. It is kind of like Swords to Plowshare. It can be a worse creature for sure, but because it pulls a random creature from their deck, yeah, and especially if you look at from Alchemy, if you look at the mono white list from this weekend, the majority of them are all 3 mana. So, if you exile Brutal Cathar, then they would get the Luminarch Aspirant or something like that, right? So it could also give you a worse card than that, but if all the creatures are 2 mana, then it's going to pull out a very good creature. So this very special removal, because it's all 3, because it's a non-token artifact, creature, or enchantment, likely see play somewhere, I guess, but I doubt it. And that looks like all that was spoiled. So let's do it for this video. Again, I sort of want to get into Alchemy a little bit, trying to give them the benefit of the doubt with the nerfs and buffs and everything else. I think the Venture was a good buff, but then again, I also think that it was intentionally nerfed to be able to be buffed later and to be put into Alchemy, but that's my conspiracy theory. But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this video, found it somewhat informative with these spoilers. Go over to Mythic Spoiler and keep checking out what new spoilers are posted every single day. There'll probably be more later on today as well. But anyways, I'll see you in the next one.